I'm going to click record. All right, so thanks everybody for coming this morning. Hope everybody's having a good week. I want to recognize our honored guest here this morning. Shawn Reilly is the mayor of the city of Waukesha, and most of you know he's also a charter member of this club, which I was just telling him here in breakfast. We just marked the 30-year anniversary back in May of when we became a club, and he was a fairly young graduated law student, and joined was one of the first 25 or so that became part of this club. So great to have you here this morning to hear a project that's important to Waukesha, as well as talk about all the fun you're having as a community leader during this interesting time that we're living in. Profound thoughts, Dr. Hurlington.
First thought is from George Santayana. The difficult is that which can be done immediately, the impossible, that which takes a little longer. And Henry Kissinger had a take on this from 1973. The illegal we do immediately, the unconstitutional takes a little longer. And the last thought I have is from George Will. The nice part about being a pessimist is that you are constantly being either proven right or pleasantly surprised.
All right, optimism is a good thing these days. All right, well, as you know and have seen over the last couple of weeks, Charlie Miller graciously agreed to be our Rotary Minute person. He has family in the area and is not here today, so I get to reprise my role as a Rotary Minute person. So quick thing out of the Rotarian, interesting short little stories about activities that a couple Rotary clubs around the world have done during this time of coronavirus. In Rotary Club of West Houghton, England, they helped organize and promote a teddy bear hunt. People with children at home and grandparents who could not visit with their grandchildren have been putting teddy bears in their windows. It's just a small way to spread a little joy and happiness in the present constrained times. The Rotary Club of Westry, Cambrian, England. Because of the lockdown, more people than ever are getting their prescriptions delivered as they are self-isolating. Pharmacies were getting backed up, so the local Rotary members were pleased to step in and help the pharmacy make deliveries. And finally, Rotary Club of in India, amid the shortage of proper medical gear, the club designed, manufactured, and distributed face shields to protect doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers. So certainly, as this time has become more creative in terms of not being able to do just our normal activities, but coming up with some unique ways of supporting the community. Happy finds in drawing, Jerry.
Okay, everybody have their pin, first of all. Yeah, that's going. Okay. Any happy finds?
Nobody's happy.
Everybody.
Oh yeah, Connor's happy. I'm sure. You tired of dragging it around? Yeah, you can tell us about that in just a second here. How that.
Good. All right. I also put the Zoom find sheet over there.
Okay, yeah, we have that Jerry was
some
keeping track
winnings
of.
to give away.
Yeah, that's right. It's not just donations; it's also winnings.
Kelly Wolf, Peter Barrett, and Chief Smith. So, I don't know if you're on the line here this morning, but anyway. All right, we'll have our guest.
Okay, I better not pick up
I like how you looked at his number before we started.
Might help, but
Oh, really close, 806.
Oh, right before
Right
me.
after.
806.
That was right before me. Was it you, Cozy? Dennis? No?
I'll take
It's got to be Dennis. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Dennis. All right. Got to find his glasses.
Half the pot.
All right. I should point out also that Shawn, while being a charter member of our club, is a current Waukesha Noon Rotary member. Although you're meeting right now just virtually still at the moment, so we're able to do a hybrid meeting. In fact, with hybrid, so we don't say anything bad about them. Dan Bailey is on the line, and Matt Flowers, and John Beauchamp, and Peter Barrett are currently connected via Zoom.
I gotta change my speech a little.
Yeah, so don't talk about those folks because they're listening. So it was mentioned that there's some good news out of the shed project. What ended up happening, Ken? You ended up having an offer, and we sold it.
A gentleman by the name of Chris Morgan, he works at Interact, he lives in Harris, town of Harris, County.
Oh, wow.
Last night I delivered Tuesday I delivered a trailer to his home. Detours and don't have it off the trailer.
Oh, it's not off the trailer yet?
But, everything worked out very well. Maybe we can bring him to club in a couple weeks. His only request was that he wanted to know where we're going to use the money for what purposes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll bring that up at the board meeting next week.
All right.
So, but Ken, we know you thought about that way more than most all of us, rest of us, and dragged it between park and we're there during farmers market. Let's give a hand for all the work. With the big detour that we had with regards to not being able to sell our raffle tickets as normal and changing the plans for it, you definitely went above and beyond service above self there to see that through and make sure that it followed through to fruition. So thank you very much for that. As I mentioned, we do have for those on the board our first board meeting of the year. Plan on having it next Wednesday night in the back room. There'll be several of us, so we can spread out a little more than 15 or 18 of us out here. I'll be sending out information to board members on there. We'll be discussing potential upcoming projects, as well as go in a little more detail with regards to our plans for the John McGivern show, which is still tentatively September. They held dance recitals at the Performing Arts Center over the weekend, so I'm going to be in contact with Joe Coldwell, the director there, the coordinator, see how that went with their spacing. We'll see. My goal is just to have information so we can make a decision, because right now we still have 700 people. We probably could sell another 100 if we had a safe way to put on the show. But we still have a lot of tickets outstanding there, so we'll provide some updates next week. I don't have a lot more. I wanted to leave enough time for our speaker to go through his presentation and be able to answer questions. I will say that next week, the newest, I believe one of the newest anyway, village trustees is going to be speaking to us. We had a difficult time getting him here, but John Miners agreed to tell us about his initial efforts as part of village trustee and things that are going on in the village. And then interestingly, I'm going to have to reach out to our Village of McWanago personnel and see if they have a speaker at the end of the month. And then John Beauchamp, you're scheduled for a speaker on August 6th, and we can coordinate on that and line up a few things. I'm also working on getting a young man here who was the foreign exchange student that we kind of spurred to go to become a foreign exchange student through Rotary. Connected him with John Henderson and such at Elkhorn, and he went over to Spain. Of course, had an interesting experience in the spring when he came home early because of everything that's going on. And interestingly, just last night, our club email got another email from somebody interested in being a foreign exchange student and wanting to know more about it. So I don't know, it's something we as a board is something to look at there. So I don't have an exact date, but maybe one of those dates coming up, either the 30th or 60th, would work for Joey Sevignac, who's actually here his experience. Anybody else have anything for the club? Otherwise, Tom, do you have a short little intro for our guest? No?
I sent him a big long thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure he has one
No,
officially.
he said, "What should I say about the bio?" I said, "Just wing it."
Okay.
Which
Go ahead.
we kind of covered already, but
All right.
As due today is Shawn Reilly. Really, for the most part, at least amongst this group, Shawn doesn't really need any introduction. Like Jim mentioned, he's a charter member of this club. Most of us have known him for years. And again, like you mentioned, still a Rotarian, currently the mayor of Waukesha. You know, I brought this up with Shawn just a week ago, so I really appreciate him taking time. I know he's got a busy schedule. I appreciate him taking time out of his schedule to talk to us today. So please welcome Shawn Reilly.
You've been mayor since 2014?
Yeah, 2014. So,
All right.
what I have here is the handout, and I will email it to you. It's a speech I gave in 2017 to journalists from throughout the world that came to Waukesha to learn about the Waukesha receiving water or being permitted to have water from Lake Michigan. So this isn't, I was thinking of changing the title of this, but it's like, I think it's pretty important because this was what was provided to journalists from out the world from my viewpoint about our project. And we were approved before this. So what I'm going to talk about is the compact and Waukesha getting water under the compact. The compact is all the Great Lakes states, as well as the 2 Canadian provinces. And the compact was adopted, now I should know this, but in response to really what it was a company wanted to fill tankers of Lake Superior water and bring it to China, and that really concerned. It was they got a permit to do this from one of the Canadian provinces and the Canadian government, and then everyone started thinking, okay, this could be something that could be really horrible for the Great Lakes. So all the states got together, as well as the Canadian provinces that all have boundaries along the Great Lakes. And after 5 or 6 years, they adopted the compact, which protects the Great Lakes from transfers out of water out of the Great Lakes without it being returned. It actually is a phenomenal document. Really, it's kind of one of a kind. It's very, very unusual to have 2 countries, 9 states, 2 Canadian provinces all agree upon something. It was making sausage. Actually, as attorney for the village of Mukwonago, since Mukwonago is in both Walworth County and Waukesha County, Rupert and Milky was very concerned that Mukwonago would be not eligible for applying for water under the compact, and I reviewed it and all that, and it is nice that Mukwonago actually is blessed with having, after the wells were put in, having more than sufficient water. So Mukwonago did not get involved in trying to modify the compact to allow communities that are in 2 counties to obtain water. Because one, it would have been almost impossible to make anything move in that unless you had some congressional support for it. And obviously all the other entities are opposed to interbasin transfers. So I'm just going to kind of go through this quickly, and then I think the best thing will be to try to answer questions. So City of Waukesha, a population of about 72,000. It is an urban hub of Waukesha County. It's largely developed. We don't expect population increases of more than 1%. And in fact, since we've done this, the population increases less than 1%. The city of Waukesha is becoming more and more diverse. You can see in 2000, it was 9% non-white, and by 2015 is 20%. Our schools are about 30% minorities for the kids in the Waukesha School District. We're eligible for taking a diversion from the Great Lakes. under a specific section of the compact. You have to be a community in a straddling county. So Waukesha is partially within the basin. And when you talk about the basin, that's where when rainfall falls, it flows into Lake Michigan or it flows into the Mississippi. Here it flows into the Mississippi. In the city of Waukesha, it flows into the Mississippi when it rains there. When you go up 94 in Brookfield, up that big hill, that's a subcontinental divide. When rain falls on the east side of that hill, it goes into Lake Michigan, and it falls on the west side, it goes into the Mississippi River. So we're outside of the basin. The city of Waukesha is outside the basin of the Great Lakes. So generally, under the compact, we cannot obtain water from the Great Lakes except under specific, very specific requirements. There's also an eligibility if you are partially within the basin and partially without. New Berlin is one of those. Brookfield is one of those. They can get Great Lakes water just by having the governor approve it. If you're partially within the basin, partially without. If you're outside of the basin, all the states need to approve it unanimously. And that's what we ended up obtaining. So why did Waukesha even go through this process? It's been about 20 years. We spent millions of dollars to get to the point of getting approval. And a lot of the questions are like, why are you even doing this? Well, because our wells, we have deep wells. Muguanago also had deep wells too. But because of the naturally occurring radium, the water that's pumped out of the deep wells has radium in it, and there's an EPA requirement that you can only have so much radium in your water, which is good. But Waukesha felt that the requirement was very, very high, meaning that the amount of picocuries per unit was extremely low, and they fought the EPA rule in regards to radium and all that. They went all the way to Supreme Court and lost it. And after that happened, they started really, really looking into how to, what was the best decision for them in order to provide water for their citizens basically forever. One of the reasons why our wells are just replacing the wells doesn't work that well is because there's a shale layer where the deep wells don't even get recharged that much. So besides having the radium, we also, the city of Waukesha was limited in that their wells take 100 years to even have any type of recharge. And so basically it's in Jefferson County that the deep well water in Waukesha gets recharged by the rain in Jefferson County. So it has to travel all that ways, and they're 300, 500 feet deep wells. I'm sorry, 1,000 or more feet deep. And we were in a position where the wells themselves were non-sustainable. So they looked at the fact that they have radium in the water. The wells were going down considerably year after year. They were non-sustainable. So then they tried to figure out, well, what are we going to do? They looked at numerous different ways of trying to figure out what to do. They had 14 different water sources considered. Some of them were putting shallow wells in the Vernon Marsh. There was a lot of pushback on that. And the science, after it was all studied, is that would cause some major impacts to the flow of water in the workings of the marsh if Waukesha obtained their water from shallow wells to the west of Waukesha. After all the studies were done, the trade-off would have been that the shallow wells being put in west of Waukesha would have caused some major environmental impacts. We were looking, we were in the city of Waukesha, and this is before I was even mayor. I mean, they did all these studies and all that, And after all the studies were done, they pretty much came to only one reasonable alternative, which was obtaining water from Lake Michigan. Some of the things that were talked about was obtaining water from the Fox River, of the Rock River, at quarries. That got a lot of press. It was kind of, Waukesha would empty a quarry pretty much every single day, and if the water, and then where do you get the water from? 70,000 people and a lot of manufacturing facilities use a tremendous amount of water. We need 8.1 million gallons per day at a minimum. We don't use that every single day. Right now, we generally use around 6 million gallons per day. But you have to think of fighting fires and those things. You need excess capacity. Every single municipality will always have excess capacity water. So the studies were done, and they came to the they only had one real decision to they decided, and this was with Sewer Pack, the DNR, the city of Waukesha. We're all working on this jointly and independently too, doing studies. UW Milwaukee did studies and stuff like that. It was studied very extensively, and the final decision was, well, we have to try to get Lake Michigan water. In order to do that, you have to page here, and I will email this so that people who want to take a look at it later can see the whole PowerPoint. We have to submit to the DNR our application. Our application had, I think, 13 addendums done to it after we submitted our application, because the DNR kept asking a lot of different questions. Our water utility director during that period of time was extremely frustrated, but when we got to, because it's like you guys are asking, so much, you're asking the city of Waukesha to just keep on spending money on consultants and all that. But when we got to the compact and having the vote on it, it was recognized that if we hadn't done that, we would never get approved. So the DNR reviewed the application for 5 years. In 2016, the DNR said, okay, your application with the 13 addendums meets the requirement for exporting onto the regional body for review, which is the 9 states, to review our application and determine whether Waukesha can get water. I'm sorry, the regional review is both the 9 states as well as the 2 Canadian provinces. So all the representatives of all those states and the 2 Canadian provinces got together after receiving our application and months of trying to review it. Sorry, that's a mosquito. They then discussed it. During that period of time, though, the water utility director and I went to every single state and talked to their representatives to try to explain this, because the application was easily paper this high. And no, I don't care, if you have 500 people in your, DNR, no one person is going through all that. So there was a lot of concern, and most of the concern was not because they read the thing, but because they were talking to each other and they had certain specific concerns. So us going and talking to these people really made a big difference, because they were able to ask us specific questions, and our utility director was phenomenally good. Go, yeah, that's in section 13. It's here's the report, and here's exactly what it says, but let me summarize it. And if I don't think if we hadn't done that, there'd be, when we went for approval, we would not have been approved, because there'd still be so many questions. So it went to regional review, which includes the 2 Canadian provinces. They reviewed it, and the Canadian provinces don't get a vote to say yes or no, but they provide their feedback at that point. And both Canadian provinces said, looks good to us. And then it goes to the Compact Council, which is just the 9 states. So if this happened in any of the states, any other community wanted to get water from Lake Michigan, and they weren't within the basin, but were within the county that's partially in the basin, it would go, the final decision would just be the states. If it's in Canada, in a municipality in Canada wants to also apply for water, then it'd just be the 2 Canadian provinces that would have they have to be unanimous to say you can get it. That's the way it works. I see a little, maybe I didn't explain that well. So Waukesha needed 9 votes in favor in order to get water from Lake Michigan from the 9 different states. In Canada, you would need the representatives of both Canadian provinces to get water outside the basin. So June 2016, we received approval, and now we need to build a thing. And so that was 2016. We're finally done with the engineering. We're finally done with pretty much getting all our approvals. We still need to get one Public Service Commission approval because we had to move our pump station from one location to another after we had already received approval. So now we're going back to the Public Service Commission to get approval from them. And one thing that a project like this teaches you is that there is no such thing as smooth sailing ever. I've told the people who've been working on the project, I want them, whenever they think about it, to jot down the unexpected things that happen as we work through this project, because there's probably about 10 to 15 a year while I've been mayor, and there's a lot more before that, where you kind of scramble, you get a objection, the objection gets some traction, and all of a sudden you need to pivot and do something else. It's kind of like COVID-19. Maybe I've been in responding to COVID-19. Maybe the water project has helped me. So we're getting water from Lake Michigan via Milwaukee. There's a pump station that's going to be in Milwaukee, bring the water into Waukesha, and then we have to return the water back into the basin, the Lake Michigan basin, and that's going to be in Franklin. So and go into the Root River, so whatever water we use, we're going to turn 100% of it to Lake Michigan. And the compact doesn't require 100%. It requires everything except consumptive use. So, I mean, some of it doesn't end up back into your clean water plant, or used to be called a sewage plant. We now call ours a clean water plant. The reason why we can return 100% is because every single sanitary system has inflow. You can just, as you drive down the road, you'll see manholes and the ones that are sanitary pipes. The manholes for those will have little tiny holes like this, maybe 3 or 4, so that basically they can breathe and all that. Well, you add all those holes and you get a big soaking rain, and that's a lot of water that ends up into your sanitary sewer system. Also, the pipes are concrete, and they try to make them tight, but they aren't all tight. So groundwater will flow into those. So we end up with however much water we have, we get another 15% that's treated by our sanitary, by our clean water plant. So we're able to return 100%, and some then we can only return 100%, and that's one of those unexpected things, how you calculate that. Whatever is over 100%, we then will return to the Fox River to go into the Mississippi. So it's a lot of pipe. We're just letting contracts now for portions of the return pipe. In August, we're having our bids for building the pipe to bring the water in, and we'll be done in 2023. Yeah.
I can't believe that the city of Waukesha only has one clean water plant. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah.
Really? That's
And
amazing.
it's economies of, the bigger the plant, the better the financially it works. Small sanitary plants will cost more per gallon of treated water. And so we're right on the banks of the Fox River. It's been, we actually spent $75 million on that in the last 2 years. with digesters and stuff like that.
Yeah, our own issues here.
Yeah. Well, the McGuanago plan is nearly. I mean, it was built for about this long. That's so. I'm going to pivot a little bit because the slide here says why did we get approval from the compact? We surprised a lot of people. In fact, after I ran, the reason I ran for mayor is because there was a lot of controversy from the prior mayor. He kept on changing his mind as to whether we should get Great Lakes water or whether we shouldn't. And the DNR finally just said, we're not even going to work on this until the city of Waukesha can decide whether they're going to do it or not. This was after the application was filed, and there was every once in a while there'd be a newspaper article, mayor opposed to getting Great Lakes water, wants to get water from quarries and stuff like that. And it was I have my background as both in college and in law school was environmental. I had an environmental studies certificate from Madison, and then I went to Lewis and Clark out in Portland, Oregon, which is environmental law school. I was very interested in this application for water, and I'd studied it quite extensively, and I pretty much come to the conclusion Waukesha does not have an option other than to get Lake Michigan water. Waukesha could have gone and put in shallow wells, and in about 30 or 40 years, they'd have to scrap that system and still get Lake Michigan water, because environmental impacts of getting water from shallow wells would make the DNR just say, you have to stop this. You can't keep on doing this. We'd be drying up other people's wells. We'd be drying up the marsh. And that would be during, when there's droughts and stuff like that. It would just be kind of horrendous. And the cost of building a whole new water system is extreme. And you don't want to do it twice. You want to do it once. And this obtaining water from Lake Michigan is pretty much my lifetime, my children's lifetime, their children's lifetime, and their children's lifetime type of deal here. So I thought it was very, very important. So I ran on it, but what was surprising is when we got approval, I had like 4 or 5 aldermen come up to me and say, boy, I never thought we'd get this approved. And it's like, I was surprised because they were all on board. They were all on board. I was surprised that they thought we would never get approval because we had spent, like $4.5 million just to get to that point. And we're spending $286 million to build the thing. So it's an enormous project, but it's a 100-year project. In fact, we're even getting some of our loans are for 40 years. And the reason why is because this is, it makes sense to pay off that for that period of time and reduce the rates now. Yeah, any federal money involved in that? We have, well, we're not getting grants. We're getting what's called WIFIA financing, which is, I think it's 1.75% loan for 40 years. So that's a pretty good rate. You can't really get better than that. The WIFIA financing also allows us to structure it so that we can pay more later. We don't have to pay until 2-year grace period and stuff like that. It's a phenomenal type of program, and we are very pleased to get that. Rick.
So the financing went against the utilities revenue, and it hasn't hurt your borrowing for all your other needs for the city.
No,
right?
the city has. There is some city money that has been pledged to get this process started. So that's about $20 million. That will get paid back to the city. So there is some impact right now, but it'll all go away. The whole cost of this is paid for by utility ratepayers, not by general tax funds. So the decision by the Compact Council was kind of groundbreaking. They determined that continued groundwater for the city of Waukesha is unsustainable, and the continued use is not a reasonable or sensible alternative. Treatment of radium was not a reasonable alternative. McGuanago went through this too. They considered whether to treat the radium or not, and instead they put in some new shallow wells. And the shallow wells are phenomenal producers because of there's from the Kettle Moraine, there's this enormous gravel that's down quite a ways that a lot of water flows through, and Waukesha didn't have that. And also, what Mugwanago needs is minor compared to what the city of Waukesha needs. So if I mean the wells that Mugwanago has would not supply, you'd have to pump them so much that you'd cause an effect on the well. The Mugwanago wells are such that at their highest capacity pumping, they're not going to affect the groundwater. If Waukesha was to take out 6, 7, 8 million gallons per day, it would affect the groundwater. What's interesting is Illinois is switching to Great Lakes water at about the rate of 1 community per year for the exact same reasons. This Cambrian shield and the radium and all that go from quite a ways down into Illinois, all the way up to Green Bay. And so a lot of those communities are dealing with the same issue. And it was interesting because a lot of the objections to Waukesha obtaining Great Lakes water is as well other communities do something. The argument that a lot of people made is that, well, everyone else is treating their water. Well, when you treat your water, you need to clean the reverse osmosis, and you need 20%. You need to pull up 20% more water. And with our aquifers declining, pulling up 20% more water would become like we're just going to cause our aquifer to fail sooner rather than later. But anyways, in Illinois, they're able to obtain Great Lakes water because under a court decision, Supreme Court decision from like 52 or something, Illinois can withdraw over 1 billion gallons of water from the Great Lakes every single day and don't have to return it. Chicago doesn't. In fact, Chicago's outside the basin, except for like a block or two into Chicago. I mean, you can see the lake, and they're outside the basin. A large majority of it. My understanding is it's like 3 or 4 blocks, like off of Michigan Avenue, and then the basin ends. But they changed the flow of the Chicago River. It used to flow into the lake. Now it flows out of the lake. The reason they did that is because this is before sanitary plants, and they were flushing all their waste into the lake and basically ruining the lake because it would go into the lake and then come right back into Chicago. So the beaches, the fishing was ruined, the drinking water was ruined, all that type of stuff. So a long time ago, Chicago changed the flow of the Chicago River so that it flows out. That's where they put all the sewage. You know, it traveled 200-300 miles before it got to the Mississippi. Sewage was taken care of, basically. Yeah.
We have about 4 minutes before we need to wrap up. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yep.
could you also work into your comments, just more current, this is current also, what you're hearing from Waukesha County officials and such in terms of where we are in terms of handling this virus? We hear a lot about state and national.
Sure.
How about more locally here?
I don't think we're going to receive any type of requirements for having masks from Waukesha County unless things get a lot worse. I don't think Waukesha County is going to shut things down unless things get a lot worse. We are having, out of the last 7 days, we've had 4 of the highest counts for COVID. The hospitalization rate is going up slightly, but not much. The death rate has not gone up. Waukesha County I think this is where you'll see one of the biggest differences between like Waukesha County, Milwaukee County, or Dane County. Things are going to have to get really, really bad for Waukesha County to start shutting things down to require masks. For me, it's a problem. I shouldn't say a problem. It's a tough decision, which I've pretty much already decided on. So I was telling Jim that I get 5 emails a day from people saying, I want you to require everyone to wear a mask whenever they're outside. I also get 5 emails a day saying, if you ever require people to wear masks, you'll never get my vote. And I actually think it's split pretty much 50-50 in Waukesha, just based on Waukesha County. based upon what I'm seeing. And it's also interesting because the emails are from everyone in Waukesha County. They're sending to me because I think they know that Paul Farrow is not going to do anything about it. And the big problem the city of Waukesha has, and actually I'm not trying to dig on Paul Farrow. That's his decision, and he has reasons for it. It's to save the economy. But this problem with the city of Waukesha, first of all, if we were to adopt a mask requirement policy or close stuff down, we have 12 to 13 town islands, which are now village of Waukesha Islands, right in the city of Waukesha, and a lot of them are commercial. So you go to Tallinger's in Waukesha and there is no mask requirement, and you go across the street and there would be a mask requirement. And that's kind of the entire south side of the city is like that. It's you're in Waukesha, you're out of Waukesha, you're in Waukesha, out of Waukesha. Same with on the freeway, you're in the city of Pewaukee or we're back and forth across the freeway and all that. So it'd be kind of unworkable. But for me, the biggest reason why I am not going to be I'm going to be following Waukesha County is because we don't have a health department. Waukesha County has a health department. The best way you can adopt a law to make requirements in regards to protecting the public health is through your health department. Both the city of Milwaukee and Dane County have used their health departments in order to make those rulings. If I say Waukesha or any community in Waukesha County, if they make an ordinance that say you must wear masks anytime you're in a public building, it'll probably be challenged, and it'll probably lose because you're not basing it on the health department. Our health department in Waukesha County has said we're not going there, we're not doing that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but in Waukesha County, it's going to be, we're going to be, hopefully things don't get worse. If things do get worse, then I think the county would do something, but they'd have the death rate and the hospitalization rate would have to go up. Those two things are what would cause Waukesha County.
Not necessarily cases, but hospitalizations and deaths.
Yes, if we get anywhere close to ICU beds being filled, then the county will start shutting things down. That's what I see.
Well, you really can't do much about how people outside with masks, but I see that Walmart now is going to start requiring people to wear masks.
And Pick and Save
already has. So,
Pick and Save also.
You know, if it's up to the individual business to require masks, then that's up to the business themselves.
Yeah, and it's not a bad decision. I mean, I when people say, I'm not wearing a mask right now, I probably should, and it's not protecting me, it's protecting everyone else. When you wear a mask, you're really not protecting yourself, you're protecting everyone else. If everyone does wear masks, it reduces the ability to get COVID by about 72% or so. That's and here's the other thing. I think the science, we've kind of been hurt by saying, okay, when it all started, here's this many people are going to die, and it didn't happen because people took it very seriously. But that's how science works. You basically you take your best guess when it's totally unknown. And you base it upon your background and your what you've learned before about viruses, and you make you decide what to tell people, and then if it doesn't turn out that way, people say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, this is what's happening is people are figuring out COVID, and 6 months from now we'll know a lot more than we know now. But you still have to try to protect people. All right.
Okay, yeah, sorry we have no time. That's all right. Thank you. People have to get to work, and Jose needs to turn this into a commercial generation restaurant here. So thanks very much for coming. Oh, I have a couple things for you. Come up real quick, Shawn. So what we do here at the club is in gratitude for sharing your message. We as a club are going to donate funds to Rotary International for 25 children to be inoculated against polio in your honor. You know all about Polio Plus and everything. Yep. And something that our high school students have done over the last few years is they created this nice little thing that it's not too big to put on your desk. You obviously don't need some publicity for Rotary, but a thank you from us with a sticky pad holder there from our club. All right. It's very nice. Thank you very much. So I get to use this as my donation for my other Rotary. There you go. And Again, thanks to Ken, and thanks also to those who served in that committee and had to make decisions along the way, Mark Wadget and others with regards to the shed. Glad that is behind us now, almost behind us. Got to get it off the trailer. All right, everybody have a great weekend. Stay safe.
Thank you,
See
everyone.
again soon.
Okay, so McGuanago@gmail.com
Yes.
or
Yeah, at gmail.com.
okay, there we go.
Yeah, rotary@gmail.com is our club.